So, anyway, today's talk is going to be about circumcision. It used to be very in vogue to do it, and I know that some people for religious reasons choose to still circumcise, and that is your prerogative. But again, let's make informed decisions as parents. I did circumcise, number 1 and number 2. Didn't really realize that there were any adverse things that could happen by doing it. Kind of took it for granted, wanted them to look like Dad, and what's the big deal? Let's do it. And as I've matured and grown and kind of done some more research, I've come to find that I don't believe that doctors are bad people by any stretch of the imagination. I'm so thankful that their expertise is around. But I also have come to realize that their job is a job. It's very 9 to 5. They're very comfortable in the risks associated with what they do because they do it every day. And quite frankly, if something happens to your child, you become a statistic to them. And I'm certainly not saying that their hearts aren't affected or whatever. Please, I'm not trying to paint them out to be terrible, terrible people. But let's put it in perspective. It's also their job. And they move on. I mean, watch an episode of ER. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, there are risks associated with having your child circumcised, and some websites will even go as far as calling it genital mutilation, and they compare it, quite frankly, to female mutilation. And I was getting a little sickened and very uncomfortable reading some of this, when we were doing our research before we decided not to do number 3. And it took us a while to kind of come to terms with it when we were just talking about it before we did any research. Number 1, there's no medical reason to do it. There used to be a very small support that it helped to prevent against penile cancer, which there's hardly any of that out there anyway. Also, people thought, oh, it gets infected and it smells and it's hard to take care of if you don't. Well, quite honestly, it's a natural, God made you that way with your foreskin, and the natural secretions that are there are just like secretions that are in a woman, so you just kind of have to keep up with it. But it's just like a female. If a woman may get an infection, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're chopping off her parts. I know that's a little graphic, but that's how serious this really is. I've had people in the medical field tell me that men have come to them and said that their erections are painful due to circumcision, and also older men saying, because I don't have any protection in that area from rubbing against my pants and age and just getting a lot of wear and tear, so to speak, it takes longer to climax and sensation becomes number. The foreskin actually has, if you guys do some research, and I'll give you those websites in a minute, they actually have nerve endings in there, and we're cutting that off. And these little guys are being basically going through a pretty serious procedure without any anesthesia, because giving them anesthesia at a very young age is extremely dangerous. They clamp it, they pull this double-sided adhered to skin that's adhered to the penis shaft back and cut it off, and it's quite the ordeal. And quite honestly, I always thought that you had to pull it back and clean it and really be aware with your infant. But you know what? You don't do anything but just change the diaper and clean it normally until they're about 2 or 3 years old. I think it's about age 3 it starts to separate on its own, and they will know themselves how far to pull it back and how to keep it clean. I had a girlfriend who they kept having it, their infants, they were saying, well, it's getting infected, and I keep trying to clean it off. And that was another reason why I thought I was going to go ahead and circumcise. And basically, you're not even supposed to do anything to it. And they were causing it to have a problem, and her husband said, well, I think it's growing back. Well, yeah, because it's supposed to. It's not even supposed, it's supposed to naturally recede at about between the ages of 3 to adolescence. So anyway, I didn't realize that we were putting our little guys through so much. It's a very traumatic experience. You're actually altering. I've heard of stories here in our area of people butchering the penis, and one doctor just saying, yeah, sorry, no charge. I mean, come on, you guys, that's terrible. My neighbor here, her son had an infection, was back into the hospital 2 or 3 times with this circumcision thing, and finally her pediatrician said, that's it, I'm not doing it again. They're going to have to go to someplace else because it's not medically necessary. And my pediatrician said, You know, it's been something that's gone in and out of vogue, and right now it's not in vogue to do it. So be good consumers with your kids, guys. And here are a couple websites for you. Get your pens out. Not Just Skin, all lowercase, one word, notjustskin.org, or askdrsears.com. Again, notjustskin.org or askdrsears.com. So there is our talk on circumcision. Please, you guys, go check it out. There's a lot more than I just, lathered on about.